time. Michael, good morning. How are you?
I am well, guys. How are you?
Doing well.
Everyone is shot out of a cannon over Illinois and their performance. Man, did they look good yesterday.
That is what everybody imagined they could be if everything was done right and everybody embraced who they should be in a given game. I thought Keaton Wagler was amazing, and I don't even know what his numbers were and don't really care that much because what I saw was a young guard who was he's not physically powerful yet. So he goes up against the toughest, strongest, best defense in college basketball and is not bothered at all. Early on, okay, a little bit of adjustment, and then boom, okay, I know what to do, and played phenomenally. And against a team with a freshman guard, Kingston Flemings, who has spent a lot of the year being that guy, the composed guy, the guy who doesn't look anything like a freshman in any way, and he outplayed him. And they didn't go head-to-head a ton, but there was no question who was by far the best guard on the floor last night.
And their balance was something that's making the difference. And again, it did last night, Mike. And I think when you look at, they seem to be one of those teams in March peaking at the right time. They certainly played the defense necessary last night. They're tough-minded in the likeness of their coach. And you just wonder now, they look like they're a team that has a mission to get to the Final Four. And if they get there, they're going to be difficult to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. They can win it. There are teams that are left in this deal that really don't have the ability to win it. There's a talent level you have to have. There are a number of components you have to have covered. Illinois has them all, but what they hadn't had until last night was the defense that said, we can control you, we can lock you down. Now, that's not the greatest defensive challenge they'll face in this deal. Houston is not an exceptional offensive team, but the fact that they made Houston struggle to the level that they did and took away the options that we talked about, I think, on Monday, and I talked about how important it was to make Milos Uzan and Emmanuel Sharp uncomfortable, and neither of them was a huge factor. Sharp hit some shots, but a lot of them were, we're out of it, we're trying to get in it kind of shots. Instead of we're right there and we're going to take command, or we're trading buckets and we have to hang in and trade buckets. It was we're way down, and if I make a couple shots, maybe we get back in it. Those shots are the kind of shots, if you're going to give up some points, those are the ones you want to give up because all you have to do is execute at the offensive end. There was a little bit of there were some nervy moments there at the end at the free throw line and that sort of thing. But they got through that, and there were some really huge shots. Tomislav Ivicic hit 1-3 with I think it was around 7 or 8 minutes left, if I remember correctly. And it was one of those shots where you're like, you really want to do that? Okay, you're right. You do want to do that because he knocked it right in. They were very impressive on so many levels. And I'm not saying that they're going to win it. I still want to see what they do and all in terms of how they play in the final game in the region. But they are definitely among the teams that can win it. And of the a dozen left, there are still only 3 or 4 that can.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really interesting tonight with St. John's and Duke, just because when you think about that game and the coaching matchup and the chess match involved, you wonder if St. John's ultimately has the enough to play with Duke, but that coaching matchup, it should be phenomenal.
Yeah, what I saw on Sunday did not give me great encouragement in regards to St. John's. We knew they were not an exceptional offensive team, but they looked really poor in that game. They looked like they didn't have a good idea about where to go to get a bucket against a significant defensive team. Kansas completely locked them up, and they had no answer for that. That really makes me wonder if they can deal with Duke to the degree that they have to. Now, TCU played with Duke for 32 minutes or so. Bad call goes against the TCU. A Tech follows that, and then all of a sudden it's an onslaught. So you do have to be concerned about giving up that kind of run. But I do think that St. John's has the ability to defend Duke and make it difficult for them, and we'll see how Duke responds to the difficulty if indeed the Red Storm are able to do that.
Back to the South, Mike, I think when you talk about Illinois' next challenge, it's a big one in Iowa just because of how high of a level they seem to be playing at. Great column on TSN and sportingnews.com about the notion that Iowa is the closest thing to Cinderella this tournament has as a 9 seed because its coach and his best player, Ben McCollum and Bennett Sturtz, not that long ago were at Northwest Missouri State, and here they are now back in the Elite Eight for the first time since 1987 for an Iowa team that had its own moment last night. How difficult will it be for Illinois to beat Iowa?
Well, it's difficult because Iowa is so unusual to play. And we saw that with Nebraska. Even though Nebraska had played them twice, there's such a different challenge. Bennett Sturtz and his ability to control the basketball, the way they run their offense with the cutting, the backdoors, the fact that we're seeing Alvaro Fargueras continue to escalate. A year ago, he was playing in the Horizon League for Robert Morris here in Pittsburgh and had a great year. It was Horizon League Player of the Year, went into the NCAA tournament, and they pushed Alabama. I think they had a lead with about 5 minutes left. Ultimately, Alabama wins by 8 or so. But Falgaris was a huge part of that. And he seems to love playing in the NCAAs because every game he's now played 4 NCAA tournament games, and he's been fantastic in every one of them. So you have to deal with that. But what you have to do is you have to make it about the physical power. You absolutely have to get the ball inside. Merkovich, Tomislav, those two in particular, you just have to punish Iowa physically because that's the one thing they can't answer. Their big guys just aren't that. They're not as tall and they're not as physically strong. We're seeing more physical size mattering in college basketball than it has in a while, and that's Illinois' superpower over everybody. No, with Florida gone, the only other team in the tournament that's anywhere near as big as they are is Michigan.
Yeah, and to David's point, though, that Iowa team beat Florida, which is it's still, I mean, if I was saying if you're Brad Underwood, don't let your guys watch them in a layup line because you get so overconfident you wouldn't even believe you could play them.
It's fair. It is. They aren't imposing, but once the game starts, Sturtz is a brilliant talent, and that's why I didn't want to get into the weeds of an argument about whether St. Peter's was a more improbable Elite Eight Cinderella story than Iowa was. But I think you can make the case that this is the most improbable Cinderella of all time to get this far. Because think about it, 2 years ago, or even a year ago, Falgaris was at Robert Morris. 2 years ago, Sturtz and Ben McCollum were at Northwest Missouri State. And a year ago, they're at Drake, and now here they are at Iowa. So they've just changed. They just got nicer uniforms, really, and better gear. But they're the same guys that were playing D2 and coaching D2 a couple of years back.
Meanwhile, Mike, Braden Smith has been at Purdue since the Katie era, it seems, because he'll set a record for minutes played on Saturday by anybody in Division I in terms of a basketball player. And I think you look at Purdue, and the challenge is tremendous with Arizona because of the depth and talent and all that they offer as a challenge. But I don't know, Purdue, the team that won't be beat can't be beat, and I just wonder if they are on a mission themselves.
Oh, I think there's no question about that. I don't know that it's reflected by anybody better than it is Fletcher Lawyer, who had a fairly indifferent February as a senior, and you started to wonder about the senioritis component. Is he just done? And I think he was just done with regular season basketball, and he wanted March because he's been phenomenal since March began. He knows what's at stake. He wants to prolong his career because prolonging your career means going back to the Final Four. It means maybe getting the one thing that these three players, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith, and Fletcher, don't have, which is a national championship ring. They've done everything else. They've won Big Ten regular season, Big Ten tournament, They've made it to the Final Four. They've played in the championship game. There's only one flag left for them to grab. And so they are playing like that matters to them. I didn't think that they defended very well in the Texas game because Texas came in really needing encouragement, so to speak, because they weren't they didn't belong. They had a really mediocre year or slightly above mediocre year in the SEC, but they won the games necessary to get to that point, and then Purdue's defense encouraged them to continue to play, and Tremont Mark was phenomenal. I don't know that we're going to see an effort like that from Purdue in a game that matters this much, but it's going to be even a much greater defensive challenge to deal with Braden Burries, to deal with Jaden Bradley, the size that they have in Mo Krivas and Koa Pete. I'm very, very much intrigued to see how this game goes because you have one terrific team that has won everything this year except made it to the Final Four, and then you have this great group of veterans that still is trying to win that elusive title.
We haven't talked about Michigan-Alabama yet, Mike. Obviously, that game along with the Tennessee-Iowa State game are at the United Center tonight, and we know Michigan is a very highly thought of team, and Alabama has a good coach and has been a good team for a while. As far as the Tennessee-Iowa State game, injury will play a big one in that.
Yeah, I still don't know what Joshua Jefferson's situation will be. They've been kind of on the day-to-day train since he hurt himself last Friday, a week ago today. And we won't really know probably until we get close to tip-off time about whether he plays. They played phenomenally without him against Kentucky. Kentucky's a quality team, not a great team, but a quality team. And it didn't matter. Iowa State just dismantled them after falling into an early hole, just completely took the game over. And the fact that they were able to do that without Jefferson was really impressive. But I don't think that Tennessee will play as porous a defense as Kentucky did that day. You have to, with no Jefferson, you know that the threat is on the perimeter, and Kentucky did not acknowledge that. Rick Barnes is a great defensive coach, and I expect that they will make sure that if Jefferson's not available to draw you inside, then they'll defend the perimeter better.
Mike, we have less than a minute, but do you think North Carolina will reach out to Billy Donovan and interview him or talk to him to gauge his interest in that job?
I think they would love to talk to him. It's really all up to Billy. Does he want to coach in college again now? What's the situation with the Bulls? Do the Bulls want to hang around? It's not really moved forward that much in his time there. I know that they're in a period of transition, but what do the Bulls want, and if the Bulls were to say, we're not really that interested anymore, would Billy want to go back to college? I don't know what the answer to that is. I've not spoken to Billy in a long time, but there's no doubt that Carolina would love to have him. He's a phenomenal coach. And in this era in college basketball, his ability to get players to play together, to play hard, to play smart, he would be a tremendous success in Tar Heel Blue.
Mike, we'll let you go. Michigan State, the only team with all five starters starting their career at Michigan State in the Final 16. Michigan State and Yukon, is that an even matchup, or is that a lopsided meeting?
Oh gosh, it's certainly, if you're intimating that lopsided in favor of Yukon, that's definitely not the case. Michigan State has a lot of advantages in this. They have a better idea of what they want to be. Watch out! I think it really all comes down to Braylon Mullins, young man from Central Indiana, Greenfield. I always confused my greens when I lived in Indianapolis. I think it was Greenfield, but he's a terrific talent who, when he is on, they are really dangerous, and when he's off, they struggle to score.